All right, hello everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar, ROI, Data Quality and Peace of Mind. We're going to begin. So we are very excited to have you today. In this webinar, we are planning to discuss what challenges organizations are currently experiencing, what affects data quality, and how to measure and optimize return on your analytics investment. We have a packed hour with a lot of exciting information that we're going to cover. Today, we are planning to show you a lot of interesting and relevant data about the state of the industry and how different organizations are performing. We are going to show you different solutions on how you can optimize and make your data collection and data quality even better. And we're going to show you how to calculate the ROI on your digital analytics investment. My name is Michael Loban. I am CMO of InfoTrust. And interestingly enough, I'm actually currently in Dublin at the Google offices. I attended a conference here just yesterday, and since my internet connection at the hotel was not very good, I joined Google for a day to lead this webinar. And I'm joined by my colleague Lucas Longo, who is a product manager and tag manager at InfoTrust, and we have a special guest, Richard Joyce, a Senior Analyst at Forrester. Richard has 9 years of experience with data-driven advertising. He has worked as practitioner at 2 holding company trading desks using multiple tech platforms and data sources. He now advises marketers and vendors on how to use data and tech to do smarter advertising as a senior analyst at Forrester, covering digital media buying. Richard, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for the intro, Michael. Happy to be here.
Today, we have a packed agenda, as I mentioned, and thank you everyone for submitting some of your questions. We already reviewed the questions that were sent to us, and Richard will try to incorporate some of the answers into this presentation. Please, if you have additional questions, please post them in a chat panel, and we'll address them towards the end of the presentation. Lucas, I'm going to ask you to monitor those questions if you don't mind. So what's on the agenda today? First, Richard is going to share with us the rise of data-driven marketing and how marketers use data for a number of marketing functions, as well as what are some of the major challenges in data-driven marketing. Then we're going to review what are the digital data quality problems that organizations might face, and in fact, how do we actually define what digital data quality is? Then we're going to look at the scenarios and opportunities to address data quality within the organization and how to make it even better. And lastly, we're going to talk about how do we actually measure our digital analytics ROI and answer some of the questions. And with that, I would like to turn this over to Richard.
Great, thank you. So today, data permeates into every aspect of business. It's really inescapable. In marketing, which has arguably been more of a creative practice, is really no exception. Why? Well, it's because data is everywhere, and when marketers use it, the results are compelling. In 2015, Forbes tried to capture this with a study of data and its use in business. What they found was that more data had been created in the past 2 years than the entire previous history of the human race. They also found that for a typical Fortune 1000 company, just a 10% increase in data accessibility resulted in more than 65 million additional net income. And at the moment, less than 0.5% of all data is ever analyzed and used. So whether you're talking about strategy, targeting, or measurement, marketers are becoming more data-driven. And being data-driven is a requirement for marketers today, and it makes sense, considering that such a massive part of an organization's budget is dedicated to marketing. We see that 78% of marketers believe that data-driven marketing is embedded or strategically a part of their organization. They believe that 87% of their data is their most underutilized asset. 90% of them believe that or use data to segment and create better targets to engage with their addressable customer audiences. So these strategies have to be rooted in data. Marketers are collecting more data than they ever have before, and they believe that using that data for targeting can create better experiences for their customers. Today, 20% of all marketing spend is dedicated to data-driven marketing, and that amounts to a measly $1.3 trillion a year for the US. So marketers know that data-driven thinking is critical to their businesses. Recently, Forrester asked 544 marketing decision makers around the globe across multiple industry verticals at varying levels of decision making about top priorities in the next 12 months. 71% placed increasing the use of data and analytics within the top 5 priorities. And if you think about it, this initiative is being used to support the ones that are a higher priority, like strengthening their brand, improving ROI, and becoming more customer-centric. What this means is that marketers are investing in making good on that initiative. We see that 42% of marketing budget is allocated to marketing technology, advertising technology, and advertising and marketing measurement technology, all tools that improve a marketer's ability to access and leverage data about their customers. To provide one example, Forrester forecasts that spending on technology like the data management platform, which is used to ingest, process, and syndicate customer and advertising data, will reach $4.5 billion by 2021. We also anticipate that the combination of technology and data will become even more important to marketers in the future as customer experiences continue to become even more fragmented than they are today. And it's all in an effort to become more customer-centric, right? We're trying to build a robust 360-degree view of the customer. We saw that creating this identity, 49% of the marketers that we spoke with were most interested in understanding cross-device behavior. The data that exists out in the ecosystem plays a critical role in developing that view. Combining data elements like first and second-party CRM records, location data, content consumption data from third parties, and live event signals to be more customer-centric and improve marketing efforts. So, how are marketers using this data? Well, there are a lot of different functions that they use this data for, but from what we see, they fall under 2 major themes. The first of those themes is planning. What we found in our survey of business decision makers, they saw that data and analytics was frequently applied to things like planning for media, sales planning, campaign planning, and also merchandising planning. To go along with that, analytics was also, and data and analytics was also being used for measurement, citing things like customer retention, revenue, satisfaction, brand awareness, customer lifetime value, and marketing effectiveness. And here we see that breakdown, right? 42% focusing on marketing planning, and then those ancillary planning activities falling under that at a lower percentage. But really, the use of analytics is being applied frequently in these types of business processes. And to give you an example, this data is informing advertising strategy and planning on the next slide. Data and analytics that drive audience planning are crucial to developing comms planning and media planning, right? We're able to combine behavioral signals with device signals and a deeper understanding of strategic personas, which then can drive that comms and media strategy. Today, many marketers start the creative process with insights and data so that they can communicate with a breadth of strategic personas with a more personalized message. And by tapping into different data signals, marketers have the opportunity to tailor different brand experiences for different people. Once we can identify those segmentations, these signals can also inform media strategies. It can help inform how we plan against buying different media properties based on where those strategic personas are most likely to frequent. Of course, measurement and analytics is also critical for understanding whether those various types of planning are paying off in terms of business objectives, something that Michael mentioned before. Having a 360 view of the customer means that measurement is more accurate. Whether you're talking about GRPs or customer lifetime value, knowing how to track and recognize your customers gives all of your metrics more power to ultimately guide optimization. Planning and measurement work hand in hand through optimization, bringing insight into action, which means developing more intelligent strategies measured with higher accuracy can power more effective optimization, and this requires quality data. And therein lies the challenge. There are major challenges in data-driven marketing today. If we go to the next slide, what we saw is that managing that data quality is the biggest challenge. Marketing decision makers told us that managing that data tops their list of challenges in marketing. And though data quality tops that list, challenges working with that data is also a reoccurring theme when you think about things like attribution, creating customer insight, having expertise with big data, and access to real-time data. We also saw that this isn't necessarily going to get solved in the next few months, right? When we ask marketers about what they will continue to see as challenges, things like poor quality or inconsistent customer data continue to top the list. So in the next 12 months, it's still going to be a very primary focus as marketers try to address this major challenge. On the next slide, while 3 of these challenges that we highlighted in the last slide are explicitly tied to data quality, as far as poor quality or inconsistent customer data, poor alignment and collaboration with IT and people who sort of master and own some of those data sources, as well as lacking the capability to measure results. The interesting thing is, when we can improve data quality, we can address some of the other ongoing challenges that marketers are going to face over the next 12 months. Things like more effective budget allocation, improved value propositions, improved brand perception, defining metrics to measure, and better marketing planning. And to address one of the questions that we received, which was, will investing in data quality help me increase my budget in the long term? I think there's really 2 ways to look at this. From an individual paid channel perspective, like maybe search, that might not entirely be the case, right? The data should point and will point to what channels should be invested in by giving buyers insight into things like lift and incrementality. If you are the owner of a particular channel, understanding how you support other channels might not necessarily mean that as a company you should invest in that channel particularly, but you should explore other ways to maximize investment in the right types of channels. But from a broader perspective, this could be true, right? If you consider something like reach and frequency. With a better understanding of devices that belong to an individual and knowing cross-device identities, the data could point to certain customers being completely underserved by your messaging. It could show that our idea of true reach is actually much smaller than it had initially been, and investment in extending that reach can potentially have positive impact on business results. But of course, digital data quality tends to pose an even bigger challenge. Why? Well, this is because the volume of data and the speed of use, we went a little too far. There's one more slide in there that we can check out. Michael, if you want to go back one.
Yes.
Right. The major challenge that we see here, right, is providing real-time insights to the business. And having access to that data and being able to take insights into action in real time is really a major challenge with this volume of data that exists out there. To give you an advertising example, demand-side platforms use billions of transactions a day to inform bid price and optimizations. Data management platforms facilitate tens of thousands of targetable segments that are constantly changing. Cross-device providers use hundreds of features across billions of devices and cookie IDs to connect devices to users. And as marketers, we have to find a way to coordinate which combination of these parts work the best for their business objectives in the near real time. To address another question that we received, which was, what are some ways that I can optimize my media spend with data? I think two of the most common practices that we see are really around knowing who to target and who not to target, right? Typically, this is thought of as suppression and smarter, maybe prospecting or behavioral targeting. But really, as we mentioned before, this can also start to inform your media buys. If you're seeing that these particular segmentations of known and unknown users are appearing on particular types of media properties, then you might have the opportunity to invest more there. You might have the opportunity to cut down investment on maybe specific properties that don't index very well for the segmentations that you're trying to reach. So there's a lot of applications of how this data can not only inform better audience targeting, but along with that, a better combination of audience targeting and media targeting. Additionally, when we think about providing those real-time insights to the business, the second major challenge that we want to call out is connecting data from each source to a specific customer, right? 25% of companies identified that doing this is really one of the top 3 challenges that they have, and it makes a lot of sense. When we start to think about how we use multiple devices in our daily lives, and Forrester research shows that the average U.S. online adult has 4+ devices. You know, it's difficult to start to piece those elements together in such a fragmented purchase cycle and customer life cycle. But to top that, we're also spending a lot more time on these devices, right? Consuming content and researching brands and products. Ultimately, all of these interactions provide data points that can improve a marketer's ability to understand and communicate with potential and existing customers. And so what all this means, right, is that while managing data quality is a challenge, on the next slide, Michael, marketers that can effectively do it will have a competitive advantage through data-driven marketing. So it's really critical to understand what quality means and how we can take steps to improve how we manage that data quality. And I'll pass it back over to you, Michael.
Thank you so much, Richard. As Richard shared with us, 70% of organizations have poor quality and consistent customer data. This means that out of 200 people that registered for this webinar, only 60 have high data quality. Before we start discussing how to solve this problem, we need to define what data quality actually means. This is Dollar Bill. Dollar Bill is a trader who works for Bobby Axelrod, a hedge fund king in the Showtime TV series Billions. Bill often has to present and explain various investment opportunities to X. It is his responsibility to analyze the data and persuade X to make an investment. And in this scene of this TV show, X asks Dollar Bill, "How certain are you in the quality of information that you share with me?" Probably a similar question that we often get from our executives. And the response that he gets is wonderful. The response is, "I'm not uncertain." How often do we have such a strong feeling of certainty and conviction about our insights and recommendations when it comes to digital marketing data? Now, we might get lucky once or twice, with making a good decision based on poor data or not so good data. But it will be very difficult to build a winning marketing practice if we always question our data and are uncertain about the quality of decisions that we make. So how do we become uncertain about the digital analytics data that we use, and therefore about the insights that we make available for executives, for our management, and for our colleagues? We like to look at the data quality in 3 ways. The first one is something that generally all of us think about, is the question, is my data actually accurate? Is my data error-free? The second one is the data complete? Does the data collect information about my customers across different devices, across different mediums, and offers a 360 customer view? As it was mentioned, for a typical Fortune 1000 company, just a 10% increase in data accessibility will result in more than 65 million additional net income. And thirdly, is the data consistent? Is my data consistent across different platforms? Average website collects information across a multitude of using a multitude of different tags or different pixels, and you want to make sure that the conversion, there's the same number of conversions across all of those platforms. A lot of times what happens is we have sales data or conversion data reported differently across different platforms that we use. And thus, we have a challenge on our hands. So now that we know what data quality actually means, what are some of the reasons, what are some of the detractors of data quality? Why don't more organizations have high data quality and higher certainty in data that they are working with? Well, there are a couple of detractors. The first one is dynamic consumer behavior. It's just the state of the industry, the state of the world, that our consumer behavior is not linear. We wish it would be as simple as someone sees our ad, comes to the website, completes the purchase, sees another ad, comes to the website again, completes another purchase. But it's not. According to Google's and Ipsos study, over 75% of online adults start an activity on one device and then continue to finish it on another device. Additionally, the customer journey is full of micro-conversions. One car buyer had 900 digital interactions before she chose her new SUV and drove it off the lot. The second quality detractors is incomplete deployment of solutions. According to Fortune, average enterprise website has between 50 to 75 marketing, analytics, personalization tools. Those can be Maximize or Google Analytics, IBM Core Metrics. The list goes on and on. And many of those organizations constantly report data loss, or our pixel has not been firing properly, or during the redesign of our website, one of the pixels is no longer available on the website. And this type of incomplete deployment can cause many types of gaps. And number 3, lack of data integration and poor data supply chain. As Richard mentioned, 25% of companies identify that connecting data from each source to a specific customer is one of the top 3 challenges. Ineffective data supply chain is the problem for organizations large and small. In fact, here's a quote from Mark Pritchard, P&G CMO, talking about the waste that happens when there is a poor digital supply chain. Now, we often say, well, digital analytics is just a directional tool. But would we spend anywhere else millions, hundreds of millions of dollars knowing that the data that we're going to get is purely directional? It seems like only in marketing we are able to use this excuse. And last one is often our inability to measure return on analytics investment. Now, to me, this is the most interesting one. And the reason for that is because when we work on our analytics budgets, when we think about different analytical projects that we want to accomplish. The question will always come down to, well, if we integrate these platforms, how much money are we going to be able to make? What type of increase in revenue are we going to be able to generate? Or potentially, can we lower our advertising spend while still generating the same number of customers, the same amount of revenue? So if you look at these 4 detractors, which ones can we actually focus on? Well, we can really focus on the first one, the dynamic consumer behavior. It's going to be the way it's going to be. We are not able to change consumer behavior. We are not able to limit the number of options that our customers have. So we have to embrace it. But we can certainly work on creating a more complete deployment of solutions so we do not lose data. Once we collect data, we can better integrate it. And then finally, we can start working on different models about return on analytics investment. And we're going to spend a few minutes showing you different models of how you can begin calculating ROI. But before, let's look at the incomplete deployment of solutions. And with that, let me turn this over to my colleague, Lucas Long.
Thank you, Michael. So as Michael had mentioned, we're going to start looking at the different opportunities that we have for improvement. The number one opportunity where we have to improve is around incomplete deployment of solutions. And just going back to really highlight some of the things that Richard said earlier, with 71% of companies listing as a critical priority of theirs to increase the use of data and analytics, as well as the just sheer volume of investment. In one of his graphs, he had mentioned $1.3 billion being spent, which accounted for 42% of different budgets being allocated to advertising and marketing technology. If we're spending this much money, and if we have this much reliance and this many initiatives tied to data analytics, the use of it to better our decision making, it's that constant paradox of just garbage in, garbage out. If we do not have that complete and accurate information and the proper apparatus to collect that information, like Michael had touched on. So using a real world scenario here, on your website, if analytics tags are missing or broken on just a subset of your pages, say 20% of your pages are missing tagging for the different analytics platform that you're using. Or maybe another scenario where only a portion of users are not being accounted for, or you're not being able to track, maybe due to latency issues, issues with just general implementation, or issues with the site, and you're not able to collect information for just 2% or 3% of those users. We're talking about a major blind spot. Now, to think about these scenarios in practice, or in a more concrete examples, just one day of missing data over the course of a month, you're talking about when wanting to analyze ROI, the effectiveness of campaigns, and see those sales figures, you're talking about missing 3% of monthly conversions. You're also talking about missing a huge chunk of just users or visitors to the website. It's people that you can no longer remarket to, people that you can no longer use and leverage for building audiences. This issue is even exacerbated more when we talk about peak days. If we're running a sale, or heaven forbid, the day before, or heaven forbid on Cyber Monday, some of our tracking goes down and we're missing 10, 15, 20% of our monthly conversions during a major peak period. And again, we've missed out on a huge opportunity to be able to reach those users simply because our data collection apparatus, our tagging, our implementation is really messed up. So why does this happen? Why do we run into this sort of scenario, and what is the opportunity to fix it? A primary reason for data outages or blind spots in the website is missing or broken tags. If our advertising or marketing platforms are the things that we're using to crunch the numbers, to do the analysis, to kick out the insights, the tags you can think of as more of the foundation. So this is where the data is actually being collected. The users are actually being identified, and that information is sent up to those different platforms. So even a minor mistake or a major mistake, really, but upfront in the process that might be overlooked can down the road lead to catastrophe when it comes to our analysis and the decisions that we're making. So how do we fix this? The key here when it comes to the implementation piece and making sure that our overall tag architecture, our data collection apparatus is solid, is sustainable, and is always working, we need to establish a tag management, a tag pixel policy. Number one here is setting up just a current audit. You're already investing money in these platforms. You're already investing money in these initiatives. Let's see where we are. Are we currently making decisions or trying to pull insights from incomplete or inaccurate data? What tags, what platforms are on the site? Are we maybe sending some of our user information to different technologies that we're no longer even working with and potentially leaking some of that information to our competitors? So where are our different tags? What are they? And exactly how are they working? Number two in this process is defining standards. So what are the standards for what platform should we be using from a privacy, from a governance standpoint? What are some of the performance standards that we should have in place? How should different technologies on the website be performing? To what extent can they be affecting the performance of our website? We need to define what's allowed to be there. What data requirements do we have for each platform, for analytics, for your DMP, for any remarketing platform that you might be using on the website? What data is required? What should be there? How exactly should it all be set up? And what standards do you have? Third process here is taking those standards that we've already defined and really creating an overall architecture. This is where you might be working with a tag management system in order to deploy all these technologies and really setting up the basis for having that complete, that accurate, and that standardized data being collected by all these different platforms so that down the road, we can actually work on integration and pulling everything together. Once we have that architecture in place, we then need to establish and define and follow an overall management process. What is the process for onboarding and adding new technologies to the site? What is the process for monitoring and making sure that everything is always working as it's supposed to be? One telling thing, and it was at the bottom of one of Richard's graphs, but in terms of the top challenges listed for marketers, working with IT was listed as 13%. So not the top, but still listed within one of those top 10 different concerns that marketers have. And a lot of that goes into this tag policy. So we need to be able to establish that management process. Who owns it? Who can we go to if we do have any sorts of issues? Who do we need to go to if we need something new? That goes into that process. The final piece here is the ongoing monitoring, ongoing maintenance of everything. The one constant in business is that there's always change. New technology is going to be added to the website. Different functionality is going to be added to the website. You're going to start working with different vendors. We need to always be making sure that we're monitoring the current architecture, monitoring how data is being collected right now, and making sure that it's always complete and accurate so that we can trust that when we're standing up, presenting, as Michael mentioned, we're not uncertain in the insights and the analysis that we're delivering. So following these steps is going to get you to a solid foundation. And the next step, as Michael will touch on here, is with the actual integration and the use of all of that data.
Excellent. So if the first step is for us to clean up our collection of data and make sure that we have consistent, accurate data coming from every channel, then the second question is, well, how do we bring the data together? How do we integrate that data? A lot of marketers have this idea of marketing nirvana, right? We automatically are able to calculate our customer lifetime value. We're able to determine who are most and least profitable customer segments. We can build a remarketing list targeting our existing customers, and we can create similar audiences, audience lookalikes targeting people who are similar to our most profitable customers. Right? Wouldn't it be great if all of this could be done automatically and the data was flowing across different systems? The interesting thing is this is actually not future. This is something that can happen today. This is something that can happen today using the platforms that are widely available on the market and even free platforms that are available on the market. Let me give you an example. Here you can see a screenshot of Google Analytics. And let me just say again, this is the free version of Google Analytics, so you do not even have to pay for Google Analytics 360, an enterprise license. What we see here is within Google Analytics, we have different user ID, so we're able to identify our customers. And then from our CRM, we are pulling information about the number of sales calls, number of direct mailers. We can see offline sales that might come from call center or that might come directly from stores. We see revenue, we see customer lifetime value, and we can see ROI. All of this information travels from your CRM into Google Analytics, and now we can take this information and we can start building a marketing list based on this data, automatically focusing on generating more customers that have the ability to generate most value for our business. This is the type of model that we want to accomplish. So on the left side, we have our cross-channel digital marketing. We have different marketing platforms, marketing campaigns that we are running to bring people to the website. In the center, we have our website and we have our tag management system, something that Lucas alluded to, right? Because that's something that will help us improve our data collection and minimize gaps or minimize possible errors in how tags or pixels are deployed and what information they are collecting. We have our analytics, or in this case, we have Google Analytics, and we might have our data warehouse. And on the right side, we have our user data sets, or we have our CRM data, we have our data warehouse or customer database. And the idea is that all of this data travels from one platform to another seamlessly. And you can build marketing channels, you can build the marketing campaigns based on your user data. Now, why would you actually want to have your CRM data powering your marketing campaigns? Well, according to the study, as we can see, CRM-powered ads are 47% more effective than traditional targeting. So there is a tremendous value, there is a tremendous ROI in our ability to integrate different platforms together and bring our CRM data or bring our customer data into analytics and to optimize our marketing. And all of this has been done before. Right? There are many case studies that showcase how to accomplish this. In fact, this is a case study that Google wrote about our project with Pelican Water, an omnichannel retailer of water systems. And they came to us with a very similar question. We need to integrate our call center sales data with our online marketing, because we need to understand what marketing channels are actually driving not just website sales, but are driving offline call center sales. And as a result of this project, we were able to discover that 21% of all sales start with advertising. So you can actually attribute your offline sales to marketing channels, and now you can optimize the marketing channels, the ones that actually driving offline conversions, offline call center sales. So if all of this is possible, right, and many of us often have to defend our budgets, many of us have to come to the executives and ask for resources to do these types of projects, then the question comes in, well, what is the value of measurement? Why should organizations spend money on this? Now, we've talked about collection, we've talked about integration. Now it's time for us to talk about application of analytics, or what can we do with analytics and how much value can it generate for our business. Why is this important right now? Well, one of the trends that we see is that companies are moving to zero-based budgeting. What does that mean? Well, that means that every year you have to defend your budget and you have to explain why you need it and the type of return, the type of business value you can generate. What this means is you cannot simply say that, well, last year our marketing budget or our budget on omnichannel was $100,000, and therefore we need the same type of investment this year. You need to explain if the organization spends $100,000 on analytics, what is it going to be able to get back? And I love this quote by the Shutterstock CMO, where he says that your investment in analytics should allow you to accomplish the same KPI goals, but perhaps with less spend or less investment in media. And if you pay the same amount overall for your sales and you spend a lot of money on analytics, then the data was wasteful. Then the process of data collection, of data integration, and the amount of money that was spent really did not accomplish anything, did not bring value to the organization. So more than ever, we need to be prepared in answering the question, what is the value that analytics can deliver to our business? So what we decided to do is put together a model that can help you answer this question. Now, as you can imagine, for the sake of the webinar and being on time, right, and finishing the webinar on time, we cannot account for all the variations that you might have in your business. But our hope, our idea is that using this model, you can start thinking about how to leverage this within your organization and how to think about the value that analytics has within your organization. So in this example, we can see that this business generates 1,000 visitors a month. The conversion rate on the website is 2%. The number of transactions is 20. And our average order value is $500. Our profit margin is 8%. Our profit per order is therefore $40. And our total profit is $800. So something is working, right? The organization is doing just fine. Marketing is working. They're generating sales. They're generating profit. Well, if we cannot spend more money on AdWords, if we cannot spend more money on Facebook advertising, then how can we use our data to generate more profit? So perhaps one of the areas for us to look at is our conversion rate. It's 2%, but if we have analytics on the website and we can understand it, right, then we can say, well, within this shopping funnel, we see some inefficiencies. And we can build a hypothesis that we can run some of the tests and we can optimize our shopping funnel. So what would happen if our conversion rate increases from 2% to 3%? Without changing anything else, we are able to generate that much more profit for our business. But let's say we do not want to stop there. Yes, we can continue to drive our conversion rate, but let's say we want to look at our average order value. It's $500. But maybe there's an opportunity to do bundling of products better on our website. Or maybe there's an opportunity to cross-sell better on our website. So what would happen if we increase our average order value from $500 to $550? Again, using data, we can see what types of products people buy together and how we can potentially upsell more products during their online experience. And by using analytics to increase our conversion rate and to increase our average order value, we can generate more profit for our business. And hence, be able to showcase the analytics ROI. Now, with your data, these numbers can be much greater. What's interesting is many organizations do conversion optimization. But a lot of times when the time comes before the end of the year to present your budget or to ask for the budget, many organizations fail to show the cumulative value that they were able to generate for the business using all the A/B tests or using all the marketing experiments that they have done over the past year. So what you want to do is start tracking all of your efforts. Start documenting how through analytics, you're optimizing your marketing ROI, whether it's increasing conversions, whether it's spending less on media to generate traffic or to generate customers, or maybe it's because you're able to increase the frequency of purchases. And people within a month, instead of buying 2 products per month, they're able to buy 3 products per month. What you want to do is start tracking these marketing experiments and showcase the cumulative value that you're able to generate for your business. Now, if you're only planning to start this now, you can extrapolate this data based on your findings, so based on your work, even just during 1 month or 1 quarter. And you can build a hypothesis and say, well, over the past months, using analytics, we were able to generate so much value. We were able to potentially lower our spend on media, or we were able to increase the total amount of revenue without changing our spend on media. And then using the hypothesis, you can say, well, if we were able to accomplish this within the past months or within the past quarter, this is the amount of value that we will be able to generate within the next year. And to the next meeting, when you talk about your analytics solution, or when you're asking for budget, and the question comes up, what type of return can we expect? Propose different models. Propose, well, this is the safest model, right? If we do not really experiment all that much, but we run 2 or 3 large experiments per month, we can generate that much value. And this is a more aggressive model. If we spend actually more money on analytics, maybe we hire another dedicated analyst for our marketing team, we can generate this much more money. And often let your executives decide. A lot of times when presented with options, an executive will suggest that we invest or spend more because it's clear what type of ROI we can expect. And so with that, let me pause. Today we've covered a lot of data, and we looked at some amazing reports that Richard has shared with us about the state of the industry and how we can be using analytics. Then we looked at some of the reasons why our data might not be quite as perfect as we would want it to. And we looked at how we can optimize our data collection, data integration, and application. And now let's take a look at some of the questions that have been posted or sent to us. The first question that came to us ahead of the webinar was, how do you deal with data overload? Richard, any thoughts on your end?
Yeah, data overload is certainly quite a challenge, even though we're not necessarily using, the Forbes research found that we're only tapping into less than 1%. For me, and I think how we think about it at Forrester is it all has to center in around your customer. So what are the most immediate types of data that give you a better picture of your customer, and how can you focus on those? It might not be time to start to incorporate all the various signals that are out there from a media perspective, or every single signal that you could potentially collect from a digital perspective. But can you start to build robust profiles with some of the data that already exists within your organization? And then from there, can you start to add different types of data that make sense for you? And I think having a good process geared towards slowly incorporating different pieces of data that will have a positive impact on whether you're talking about planning or measurement or optimization is probably the best way to deal with all the data that does exist out there. But taking a structured approach to that will equip you to essentially be able to address new forms of data that start to pop up when we start to talk about continued fragmentation in the ecosystem, and things like wearables, IoT, other IoT devices, and things like that that can also inform information and data and insight on your customer.
Excellent. And if I can add to that, I think what can help at the beginning of the process is to know exactly what you're looking for, right? Because a lot of times we look at a massive data set and it seems like, well, we have all of these reports, what can we do with them, right? But I think the question is, we need to optimize our marketing funnel. What data do we need to understand what marketing hypothesis we can create and what type of marketing tests we can structure? And when you know what you're looking for, then it becomes easier to decide what information you need. And to Richard's point, for signals, all right? So you might not have all the information, all the signals available to you because maybe some of the data platforms are not yet integrated, but use well what you have right now, and then this time you can integrate even more data platforms. Before we dive into another question that was sent to us before the webinar, Lucas, are there any questions from the audience right now?
Yeah, a couple here. It looks like Richard had been answering a few throughout the webinar. One question that is outstanding, it looks like two of the same type. What is the best way or tool for pixel implementation? I think that's something that we can answer. Really, any tag management system. The most common ones are Google Tag Manager. Obviously, Adobe has their dynamic tag manager. Telium and Citon are also solid choices. It really depends upon exactly what you need, but would absolutely recommend utilizing a tag management system of some sort, and then also implementing a data layer that's just a common data layer in order to be able to have uniform data points and standardization across platforms, which is going to make integration a lot easier.
And Lucas, I just wanted to add a little bit more color to the question that Courtney Morgan had as far as looking at some of the metrics from the deck that could be used to convince executives of spending more money and effort on this. I think while some of the data points are certainly great conversation starters, to the point that Michael was making through his conversation around the return on analytics investment is, examples like that, building the business case, I think for the most part, it's going to be more than a few metrics. If you can justify a business case and make it really easy from a numbers perspective, why the investment needs to take place, I think you have a better chance than maybe focusing on a few of the different data points that we found in our studies, but the combination of those can really help build a much more solid business case and reason for that investment.
Awesome. Michael, do you want to touch on any of the other? Yeah.
So another question came from Dan. What prevents companies today to calculate overall marketing ROI generated by online and offline sales combined? So I can start, and Richard would love to hear your thoughts and feedback on this. But probably one of the ways, as we discussed in the webinar, is information is siloed, right? Information lives within the different platforms. In fact, if you have a larger organization in a marketing meeting or in a company executive meeting, ask people who is in charge of our customer data, right? And see if there's a person who will claim that responsibility. In our experience, a lot of times within large organizations, there is not a single person who will raise their hand. So what that means is you have 2 or 3 or 4, and sometimes even more people that are responsible for different data points. And sometimes they're very protective of their data, or sometimes they rely on systems that are not well integrated together. And as a result, you get a channel ROI. You have an answer, well, what is the ROI of a Facebook campaign? And someone says, well, it's this, right? What that also means is they're relying on a last click attribution model, where they say, well, so many people over the last months clicked on Facebook, came on our website and completed the purchase. But they don't have visibility into what about people that saw Facebook advertisement and then 2 days later clicked on our product listing search ad and then came to the website and completed the purchase. So I think it's the siloed data set that means it's not integrated, and question of responsibility, right? Who is in charge of pushing this forward?
Yeah, no, totally agree, Michael. And you know what I'm seeing some marketers do is make sort of that single source of truth for performance and measuring success more part of like corporate governance regarding data and technology, right? Even that point about unlocking accessibility to 10% more data can realize such large gains for different organizations. You know, is one of those reasons that's driving that, right? Can we make everybody more data driven in anything that they might be doing? That's going to have a positive influence on the organization, and breaking down the silos, centralizing that data is certainly a challenge, but a common direction that I see many marketers moving in.
Excellent. Another question, what are some of the ways that I can optimize my media spend with data? Richard, would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about that during the presentation. I gave some initial answers around you know, targeting versus not targeting, right? That idea of suppression versus just improving prospecting or behavioral targeting. But alongside that, I think, you know, there's a lot that can be done from a frequency management standpoint. There's a lot that can be done to understand overlap of audiences across different media properties. You know, if you're going to start to explore things like multi-touch attribution, whether you're talking about, you know, algorithmic models versus rule-based models, you know, those elements help to score different activities, different touch points within a user's, you know, path to purchase that can also be used to either, you know, automate some of that optimization, whether maybe you're using a programmatic platform or something like that, or they can just be used to help better guide investment in different properties if you're not taking a more automated approach from a programmatic standpoint. So certainly there's more applications there, but I think the first steps are really kind of what we talked about as far as audience optimization combined with media optimization to improve the effectiveness of your digital media buys or your campaigns, and then starting to incorporate maybe some more advanced approaches to the application of some of that data.
Excellent. And another question, how do you prioritize data to get it in a usable form?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think my perspective again is really based around how Forrester advises marketers to put the customer first. I think there's extreme value and competitive advantage that can be gained from marketers who even in the initial point really know how to manage and coordinate and bring together the data sources that they already have themselves, because those, you know, are generally more proprietary and not available to the rest of the ecosystem. You know, then it's kind of about really about trying to understand those other signals that are out there that can start to, you know, some financial companies talk about pre-intent, right? It's not enough to know that someone is in market for dog food, for example, but what are some of the signals and things that users that they know do before they buy, right? That's more important to understand than just knowing that they're have an affinity or own a dog. So how can you start to combine some trends and things that you see within your own data with different things that ensure that somebody is pre-qualified for a particular audience, to start to inform those signals that indicate that the timing is right to actually get in front of somebody or send them an email or maybe not. That's just as important, I think, in the grand scheme of things. So understanding how to combine some of those pieces to start to provide that moment those moment-based signals to some of the contextual signals and understanding that you have about personas is really important there.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. I know that we are a few minutes over. So to those who were able to join us, thank you so much, Richard and Lucas.
Yeah.
Thank you both for joining me and presenting. Everyone, if there are any other questions, please feel free to email us, and we'll be sending out a follow-up after this webinar. It was a pleasure to have everyone with us today. Thank you, and we hope to see you at the next one.
Thank you.